Hello, good afternoon everybody. Thank you for joining us today. I am chatting with Zita West very shortly, who is an absolute expert in the field of fertility. And today we're going to be talking all around gut health. And so many of you guys have messaged us wanting to know more. So this will be such a beneficial session to have your questions answered by Zita West live and to understand more about how the gut microbiome can affect fertility and also what you can do to proactively support that if you're trying to conceive, having IVF, whatever stage of your journey. So she'll be here any second. Have your questions ready. We're so lucky to have her on our live today. And if you have any questions, please ask myself or Zita. We'll make sure to... Hello to those who are joining. Nice to see you today. Zita will be here any second. Hi, Zita.
Hi, Eloise. Can you see me okay?
It's a little bit dark, but we can see you.
Why it's so dark. Anyway, you can see me.
See you. How are you?
I'm fine. How are you doing?
Good, thank you. I've just given a brief introduction to you and also the very popular topic of the gut microbiome and the connection with fertility, whether you're trying to conceive naturally, having treatment, etc. So please, first of all, could you just introduce yourself to those who want to know more about you, and then we can get started.
Okay. I'm sorry this is so dark.
No, it's got better. It's got better.
Yes, so I am Zita West. I am a midwife and an acupuncturist, and I have specialised in holistic health for a long time, for fertility and pregnancy and beyond. So I'm really excited about the microbiome because we're learning so much more now on every level, which is brilliant.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, absolutely. So please could you first of all explain what the gut microbiome is?
Okay, so the gut microbiome has probably had more research than any other microbiome in the body. And what it is, it's like a biological community. It's an ecosystem that has got bacteria and viruses and yeast, and it requires, you know, good bacteria. And so different parts of the body have different microbiomes. So the gut microbiome is very different from the vaginal microbiome or the, you know, oral microbiome, and it requires a different strain. And for us to stay healthy, we need a lot of good, friendly bacteria in our guts or in our microbiome.
And so how can that impact fertility positively, but also negatively?
Well, I think, you know, I've seen a lot over the years. When I consult, one of my sections is about gut health. You know, do you have diarrhea, constipation? Do you have IBS? And, you know, when you think that the hormones that you make that are required to get pregnant, to produce an egg, and to produce sperm, requires you to have a good gut because you need to absorb those nutrients. But also we know that the gut has got 70% of the immune cells. It produces serotonin, and it's also sort of responsible for inflammation in the body. So if you've got poor gut health, you're likely to have more inflammatory disorders, immune issues, etc. So, you know, there's a link to the gut and fertility for men and for women.
Which is actually a really interesting point, because when people might have testing done for immunology, for example, one of the things that, you know, if you have nutritional support that might be recommended is foods that kind of lower that immune response.
Yes.
Heightened immunity.
Yeah, because if you've got, you know, any poor immunity, you're likely to have inflammation. If you've got conditions such as endometriosis, polycystic ovaries, thyroid issues, an autoimmune disease, you're likely to have increased inflammation in the body.
Absolutely. We have linked up in the bio a link to Zita, your wonderful supplement range, where our readers can get 10% off with the code TRB10, and you have all kinds of supplements to support every stage of the fertility journey and beyond. Which products in particular are useful for the microbiome, gut microbiome?
I think it's a combination of products and plant-based foods.
Okay.
So, you know, what I'm excited about these products because they've got the research to back them. So we have FemSieve and the vaginal microbiome,
which I've taken.
Oh, right,
yeah.
Great. And that's becoming, you know, increasingly important, and studies show that it can affect implantation as well.
Yeah.
And it's interesting, you know, women that are trying for a baby have, you know, sometimes have many issues like bacterial vaginosis, cystitis, candida, and that can all be an imbalance in the bacteria of the vagina. So lactobacillus is very, very important for that. We have MemSeed as well, and I was really pleased to see some studies last week on that semen has its own microbiome as well.
Wow.
And you know, there are links between the gut and sperm health. So again, the studies show that with the right probiotic strain in the semen, it can help with motility.
Yeah.
Got, you know, for pregnancy, you've got now increasingly the maternal microbiome, and we always know that a mother passes on antibodies to her baby, but we're starting to understand a lot more now about how the gut microbiome changes in pregnancy and requires different strains. So we've got Pregnant Calm for that, and also postnatally the mother is passing to her baby, if she's breastfeeding, antibodies, and again Lactocalm is something that's really, really good for that. And you know, when you think about pregnancy, you think about the end result rather than what's going on when you get pregnant.
Yes.
And obviously a pregnant woman wants to look after herself to the best that she can, but a baby has virtually no microbiome when it's born. It's sort of sterile, and so it relies on the coming through the birth canal to pick up some of the bacteria. So if women have had a cesarean section, it will take longer to colonize the gut. So we have something from Baba West range, which are little drops that they can take from birth that's going to help their microbiome.
Fantastic. You're so right, because I've been there myself. It's you know, you're obviously focusing initially on getting pregnant. If you're having IVF treatment, trying to make that a success, of course, and then it's kind of, if that works, what's next?
Yes.
What support do I need to continue, and for how long? And it's good to have an expert like yourself helping with this, because it's really hard to navigate. So,
but I think it's difficult as well, isn't it? Because so many of the women that I see, they conform so highly when they're trying to have a baby. They do all the right things, etc. And then they know everything about fertility, but very little about pregnancy. And the minute they get pregnant, they're craving chips and fast foods when they've been eating really, really well. And that is the body craving. It takes energy to grow a baby, and it's sugars, and so they worry a lot about what they are taking in. And that's why, you know, sometimes it's no good saying to a woman that's in early pregnancy, eat kidney beans, eat chickpeas,
eat kale.
Doesn't want to do it, you know. So there are supplements that can help, you know, with you getting the right probiotics into you.
Such a good point, because it does become kind of survival mode and getting through.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. Yeah.
Especially if previously you'd be sort of following a green smoothie, you know, incorporating that into your diet, and it's the last thing that you can stomach. So if people are feeling that, they're absolutely not alone with that. And please go to our link in bio to check out the range and what can help you at different stages. If you've got questions for Zita or the team around, you know, when you might consider taking what, then please DM, because we can absolutely point you in the right direction.
And also Rebecca, our nutritionist, does a free 15-minute consultation.
Yes.
Medical stuff, but for supplements.
Yeah.
So it's worth booking on there. I think she's got an online.
Definitely. You just mentioned slightly about male fertility and sperm. Could you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, I mean, you know, we know now that semen has a microbiome of its own. And again, you know, men take supplements, they have sperm issues, but we're learning a lot more now about infections and the microbiome and the impact it does have on the sperm. And again, you know, if a man's got poor gut health, it can cause the same for a woman, inflammation, etc. So I think it takes two. And you know, when I started years ago, it was very much considered the female issue, and now it's 50-50.
Yeah, and you know, there is a bit more education now, isn't there, about people getting tested at the same time earlier rather than...
Yes, absolutely. A lot more support out there for men. There's a lot more groups out there that will support men. So, you know, important.
Also, I mean, I'm just speaking from my own experience of, you know, asking my husband if he'd, you know, do certain things. Not always that easy to, if you've got a partner, to sort of get them on board with taking supplements and things like that. So any suggestions with that?
I think it's hard because, you know, there's pressure on couples the whole time if they're trying naturally or they're going through IVF. And, you know, you've got to remember, a woman drives this. She's out buying the books, the vitamins, the products. She knows everything about everything. I mean, how you started your business, it was finding out things for yourself. And so often there's pressure around sex, pressure around food, there's pressure around alcohol, and it does come between a relationship. And I see it
And
when
sex.
What?
And sex.
And sex. I see it when a couple come into a room. You know, the man's arms are folded. Very often he thinks, oh no, not another therapist to see or another do-gooder that's going to sort of tell me what I should be doing. So I think it's important to try and compromise as best you can and not to put pressure on one another. And, you know, again, I know men are pretty hopeless, and I'm not saying this for all men, at taking vitamins and minerals. But I think it's no longer any good saying, well, it just takes one sperm and that's all it needs. It's the quality of that sperm and the genetic material of that sperm, and understanding that you know, the most important role a man has is to deliver the DNA into the egg. And so it's really important that he should be doing as much as he can as well.
So there's a lot of research emerging, isn't there, around sperm DNA fragmentation?
Yeah. And it makes me laugh sometimes. Having done this for so long, you know, couples would go to doctors or IVF clinics years ago, and a man say, can I still smoke and drink? Yes, no problem, no evidence to support it. So we've come, you know, 100% round now.
Yeah. So if people follow the link in bio and look at the range, what would you suggest people look at for a male partner if they have one?
Well, if there's no standard multivitamin and mineral and omega-3 and the C, if there are issues, they need more. So alongside the multivitamin and mineral, we do something called vitamin boost too. And again, that contains ingredients that are known to help sperm health: carnitine, taurine, coenzyme Q10, selenium, zinc, etc. So it depends on what the issues are. There's a little quiz on board, but again, if anybody wanted to phone up and book an online appointment with Rebecca for 15 minutes, they could go through that.
Absolutely. The link is in our bio to find out more, and the code TRB10 for 10% off, which is a very nice thing to have across the range. So thank you for that. Back to gut microbiome and health. How would someone know if they had an imbalanced gut microbiome?
I think if you've got any sort of IBS, if you've got any digestive issues, if you've got allergies, if you're constipated, irritable bowel syndrome, or you have any issues with your gut medically, you know, some people have Crohn's disease, you know, there's a lot of underlying issues. If you've got an autoimmune disorder, so, you know, you're able to tell that. And it's also, you know, looking at your diet. I talked about plant-based foods, but also, you know, reducing or cutting out processed foods and sugar, because that is going to be bad for the microbiome and for the friendly bacteria, and it will deplete the gut of what it needs. So, you know, just looking at that, that's for, you know, for a couple. But for a woman, if she's got, like I said before, underlying urinary tract infections, vaginal bacterial vaginosis, cystitis, all of those can impact as well.
Okay, that's good to know. If anyone has any questions for Zita whilst we have her, please do ask. It's an amazing opportunity to have your questions answered. You mentioned plant-based foods. That's interesting, because there's quite a lot around sort of veganism and how that impacts fertility. How does protein affect things like the gut microbiome, and how do people know how to get the balance right between?
Well, I think it's a very interesting question, because, you know, eggs and sperm need protein. you know, and again, for me, when somebody's going through IVF, it's not a natural state. You know, you need more protein because you're not just producing one egg, you're producing lots of eggs. So you do need protein. And I think that if you're vegetarian and it is your choice, sometimes it's hard to get those protein needs met. So you have to be really, really careful and meticulous about what you're eating. And sometimes some of the vegetarian foods, they're not that eco-friendly, or they're not that sometimes good for you. So you've got to work hard at it. And I think one of the hardest things for vegans is when they are initially pregnant, because again, like I talked earlier, they might be having a really good diet rich in protein. Get pregnant, you feel sick. It's very hard to manage. You know, you're more likely to crave sweet things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Is there anything that people should avoid, such as the stress, and how is the stress correlated to, you know, affecting the gut microbiome in a negative way?
Well, stress, you know, stress that affects the body in many ways, and there are lots of stresses around, and I think it's managing your stress important, and some people are a lot more easy or adapted to manage than others. And you know, IVF is a stressful process to go to. It's highs and lows the whole time. But I think it's when you are in fight and flight mode, you know, most of the day, anxious or worrying, that's when you're releasing adrenaline and cortisol, which are damaging to eggs and to sperm. So it's really important to find techniques and ways that are going to help you. And I know that a lot of women listening to this is about exercise. Exercise is great, but it does, you know, produce endorphins that help reduce stress. But it's not the answer. If you can go off and you can just lie and have a doze, a sleep, read a book, do some meditation, just something to bring yourself down, and you've got to work out what that is for you. And you've got to find something that is going to manage your stress for 20 minutes a day. And this is what women are particularly bad at. They're much better at getting out there and exercising, trying to do a diet, etc. But again, everything with fertility and IVF is down to mindset. And if your mindset isn't good, it's hard to motivate yourself to do anything. You know, it's really, really difficult to. So it's about sort of not making huge changes, doing small tweaks at a time. And if you feel that you're not resting enough or you're not on a good diet, focus on that for 1 week, and then the next week move on to something else. Don't try to make all these changes all at once, because it won't work.
What do you think about, that's very good advice, and actually something that you mentioned to me when I recently had IVF was, you know, around sleep and stress, which everyone gets. It's impossible not to when you're going through, when you're trying to conceive, and it's a struggle, or treatment. Melatonin and sleep.
Melatonin, I mean, you know, it's used a lot in IVF now. Melatonin isn't just about, it's not a drug just for sleep. It's quite a powerful antioxidant, but not everybody should take it. You can't get it over the counter here, and I think it needs to be prescribed by a doctor if you're going to take it.
We just had a question come in. Do you mind if I ask you? This lady has, she's about to have a hysteroscopy and biopsies at a clinic, having experienced 2 chemical pregnancies after IVF and 3 naturally conceived miscarriages. She's looking into taking the Zita West probiotics, but wondering if she should hold off until after this after these investigations, in case it changes the result. What are your thoughts in terms of supplementations whilst having testing?
It depends if she's having this done sooner rather than later, but I think it's good to build up the probiotics. It's not going to have any impact, but I would say that there are certain tests that she should look to have if she's had 3 miscarriages. It's not just about taking probiotics, and maybe more serious underlying factors that she needs to have tested.
Yeah, absolutely. Actually, that's a very good point you raised. I'm sure we've mentioned this in the past, but it does take up time. It does take time, doesn't it, to build that foundation with supplements?
Yes, it does.
So, I mean, the recommendation is normally at least 3 months if you can. Is that right?
Yes, it is. Yeah, at least 3 months if you can. Which, if you're going through IVF, it's easy to do. But if you're trying naturally, and it's taking its time, it can be difficult. But you know what you've got to remember as well, with the way we live today, the body's easily depleted
Yeah.
through exercise, through alcohol, through stress, through medications, etc. So it is good to, you know, use as a sort of a bit, not as an insurance, don't mind it that way, but just to build yourself up. I think as well, like I said earlier, most women absolutely know everything about fertility, but when a woman gets pregnant, a baby's not going to rely on what she has in any one day. It's going to rely on her nutrient stores throughout the month. So it's good to top yourself up ready for when you get pregnant.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I've been taking lots of the Zita West supplements range, and I'm currently, so all of the above just helps so much. One of the things that I personally had depleted levels of was vitamin D. So
yeah.
actually since January, I've been taking the Zita West vitamin D spray, which has really helped the levels rise. So I've been having them retested, you know, every sort of 3 months to see. Obviously it's summer now and we haven't had the best weather over here in the UK, but in the winter months especially, it's very easy to be low, isn't it, on these levels?
Oh yes, yeah, absolutely, and you know, and again, you can't get vitamin D from food. It's really, really important that you take it, and it's quite interesting with babies now. I mean, our baby range is vitamin D from what the NHS are suggesting. I think there's another important thing as well, Eloise, is folate is really key when you're trying for a baby or going through IVF. A lot of people are still taking folic acid, and if you've got any underlying gene mutations such as MTHFR, folic acid isn't going to work for you because you have problems metabolizing it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. We've just had another question come in. What do you think about doing cetrulide the day before egg retrieval, doing IVF with her own eggs? But it's the first time the doctor recommended that. I'm not sure if that's too medical a question, potentially.
It's because, you know, the thing is, you have to go along with what your doctor's suggesting, like, you know, knowing a history or anything like
Absolutely.
that.
But I do think people should take advantage of the free consult with Zita West supplements for a nutritional consult, because then obviously you can talk about what you might want to get tested, what it means, and what your own personalized plan might look like. So head to our link in bio to set up time to speak with Rebecca, the nutritionist, and then that can help you work out the supplements that are right for you at your stage and what your body might need. We talked a little bit about the gut microbiome and how that changes from pregnancy. What about postpartum?
You know, again, like I said, if you're breastfeeding, you're passing on antibodies to your baby. And so, yes, it will change because, you know, when you've gone through a pregnancy, there's a huge recovery going on, and sort of like, you know, loss of blood, building your body back up, collagen, energy, etc. So it does have an impact. And I think that very often what happens in the early days, for about the first 10 days, a mother is over the moon. It's very easy to get tired and be stressed because it's a huge lifestyle change having a baby.
Yeah.
Wonderful. It's a huge lifestyle change, and anything you do up to the point of labor is all theory. You have no idea until you have a baby how hard it is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. If anyone has any questions, please do DM or send them in now. There's a couple of things I just wanted people to be aware of because they're such fabulous opportunities, and ones that I have relished myself. So the first one is 10% off the entire Zita West supplement range with TRB10. The link is in the bio. I've put it in the chat. Do go and have a look. As we've mentioned, you can have a free nutritional consult with Rebecca, who can help you get on track to work out what you need personally. But also, Zita, I wanted to ask you about the 4-week program that you are doing every Monday in September. Can you tell us a bit about that?
Yeah, I'm doing it because I did it during lockdown and it had a huge impact. So I'm doing it again. I always think of September as almost like back to school. You know, you sort of like had the summer off, you're back to school and you're making your plans again. So quite a good reset. You know, spring and autumn are quite a good reset. So I'm doing it just to help women through this month.
Okay. Brilliant.
Yeah.
So do people follow Zita West Collective, this account, and then they can tune in on Instagram Lives on Mondays?
Zita.what is on Zita West. And yeah, this should be on Zita West as well, but I couldn't find you, so I eventually found you on here.
Okay. Okay, that's good to know. So everyone should follow the Zita.West account to be able to join in on Mondays at 5 o'clock throughout September for this, which is amazing.
And they'll get sent a little workbook, but they have to.
That's good.
Yeah, so they have to subscribe to the workbook.
Okay, is that for journaling?
No, it's not. It's some of it's for journaling, but mostly I'm dividing the weeks up. So the first week is about mindset and your thoughts and emotions and how to manage them. The second week is going to be about nutrition. So they've got a chart about, they're able to write on about nutrition. I'm doing that with Isabel Aubert, who's wonderful.
Yeah, I love that.
It's all about supplements and egg and sperm quality. And the fourth week, again, I'm on each one, but it's pulling it all together and discussing the changes and taking Q&As.
Fantastic. Well, everyone should get involved in that. So thank you for sharing. The last thing I wanted to mention is that obviously people can go through our link in bio, use the code and buy whatever supplements they want from the range, which is great. We are also currently running a giveaway with you where people can enter via Instagram on our Instagram reel, which if you go to our page, you'll see it pinned at the top, and it's an opportunity to win the most fabulous female fertility plus pack, which has the value of £130 or $165. You can enter anywhere in the world. It ends on Friday, and you just need to go to that reel pinned on our fertility.theribbonbox Instagram account, like, comment, share, and you can enter as many times as you like. It ends on Friday, and it's a really lovely opportunity to get a pack that has this wonderful support. If there's anything outside that pack that might be good for IVF or a FET, for example, then of course you also have the link in bio to look at the full range to add to that separately if you wanted to purchase those on top. But this is a great opportunity. Is there anything you wanted to say, Zita, about the female fertility plus pack?
No. I mean, it contains everything you need for your IVF.
Yeah, absolutely. One last question. I know we have 2 minutes left. Are you happy to do one last question? This lady has asked her consultant about probiotics, and he agreed that she should look into them. He also said use probiotics vaginally too. What are your thoughts in terms of probiotics vaginally versus orally, or both?
I think both. I mean, if the doctor's suggesting it, it's obviously a prescription that is given. So, you know, not everybody vaginal pessary is. So he must have something in mind. It's quite hard to comment on that.
Of course, yeah. Well, thank you so much, Zita. Thank you for everyone joining. Do enter our giveaway before Friday. Again, go to our Instagram page and look at the pinned reel to enter through Instagram, and head to our link in bio to get 10% off the range with TRB10. And make sure, last thing, that you tune in for Zita's Monday sessions from September. So yeah, thank you for sharing that program with us.
Okay, pleasure.
All right. Thanks, everyone. Have a good evening. Bye, Zita. Bye.